Well, good morning and a very warm welcome back to the channel. It is some time since I've posted anything, and the K1600 is now out here in the sunshine. That's partly due to the fact that here in the UK it's been obviously autumn, winter, and actually a very wet spring as well. I recently took a long weekend to Normandy, to the D-Day landing beaches, which wasn't really a motorcycle trip in the sense that I call a motorcycle trip. We use the motorcycles to get there, and we use the motorcycles to get back, and we use the motorcycles to travel around, but it was more a sort of hobby of a group of friends of mine where we do an awful lot of World War II visits to museums, and obviously the D-Day landing beaches are one of the most famous of that particular conflict. What I am going to tell you about today, I'm pretty excited about, and that is that today is, I believe, Saturday the 27th of May 2023, and on Monday evening I set off on a large adventure on the K1600 to the Arctic Circle. And I'll run you through very quickly the countries, 14 different countries. I think 14 countries, 7 or 8 different currencies. So I'm looking forward to it immensely. Doing it with my friend Sean, who has a BMW R1250RT. So it'll be interesting to make some comparisons. It's a motorcycle which I highly rate. It falls into the shadow a little bit of the GS and the GS Adventures, but it is truly a very, very competent motorcycle. That's the R1250RT, and very similar to this, but obviously this has got the inline 6-cylinder 1600, whereas the R1250RT has got the horizontally opposed boxer twin that we're all very familiar with. Anyhow, the route and the adventure we're about to have. We leave Monday evening on the overnight ferry from Harwich in Essex across to Hook of Holland, obviously Holland, and we land there I think about 8 a.m. on Tuesday morning. We go from Hook of Holland to Kiel, stop overnight in Kiel, right in the north of Germany. Then we travel from Kiel to Copenhagen in Denmark, and then from Kiel in Copenhagen in Denmark to across the bridge, the Åsland Bridge, which is the bridge that then disappears through into a tunnel in the middle of the sea. We're taking that tunnel across to Malmo and then up through Sweden, not stopping in Sweden because we're going to that day reach Oslo in Norway. Then from there we go across to the west coast of Norway and go all the way up through the Lofoten Islands, Narvik. We're going to look at the Tirpitz Museum, the World War II Museum, I think, in Narvik, and in Alta we're going to the Tirpitz Museum, and then all the way up to Nordkapp, which I think it's contested, but is the furthest north mainland piece of the continent of Europe. So we will make a turn there and then come back down through Finland, crossing from Helsinki to Tallinn in Estonia on a ferry, and then we'll do Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Czech Republic, Germany for a second time, Belgium, France and home. So leaving on the 29th of May and back on the 29th of June, and it's taken quite a little bit of planning, both in routes and accommodation, and the motorcycle, because it is 6,500 miles, or a quick calculation in my head, about 10,000 kilometers. So the planning that we've done for the routes, I have used the MRA navigation tool, the online navigation tool. I am a gold lifetime member. You can get a subscription or you can buy a lifetime membership. It's not inexpensive, but it's a very, very, very good tool. And I've used that to plan the routes. So we've got some very detailed routes traveling up Norway. After that, we're a little looser in what we're actually doing, but certainly we've planned those already. And we use the MRA navigation app, just to give it a very quick plug, because I will be probably doing a video on it later. No sponsorship or anything, but I have used it. The TFT, so the connected app, the BMW connected app, uses TomTom maps, and if you pay the gold membership, then you have access to those TomTom maps within the planning tool. So you know that when you transfer the route from the MRA My Route app, MRA, My Route app. When you transfer it from there onto the connected app and therefore onto the TFT screen of the bike, you know that you are going to get a true route rather than it deviating away, because a very interesting thing comes up when you use the MRA navigation tool. You can also, with the gold membership, you can also have Garmin maps. Now, many of you will know that the GS, and I've been the biggest detractor, I think, from the connected app and the TFT navigation implementation on the GS and the GS Adventure, and I had 3 of them. But I also had the Nav6 on the GS's, and the Nav6 uses Garmin maps. So the connected app uses TomTom, and the Garmin and the Nav6 uses Garmin maps. Of course, what that results in is that results sometimes in a slightly different route, which is if you're using both on a GS, you may well have noticed that your mates are all going, it's saying go down here, and you're saying no, go down here. With the MRA route app, you can show both on the screen and you'll see where the routes deviate, and you can just put another shaping point in to make sure that the route goes the same way on all of them, and then distribute the route to everybody, knowing that you will all have exactly the same route being taken, whether they have TomTom devices, connected app, or whether they have Garmin devices, or the Nav6, which uses Garmin maps. So that's what we've used to plan the routes. Mainly Booking.com for the accommodation, and we're stopping quite a bit in fairly low cost accommodation, because Norway, as many of you will know, is fiercely expensive. So we're stopping a lot of the time in the cabin type places, and hopefully we'll get some video footage, but I will certainly be posting on my Instagram account. I'm not a great social media person. I'm no influencer or anything like that. You know, I'm not one of the big boys by any manner of means, but my Instagram account, if you're interested, I think is Nick_Hodge, and you'll be able to find me there, and I will post some stuff on Instagram. Whether we post a detailed video on the trip, I don't know. I hate editing. I like the filming. I don't know quite why you like filming and then not to watch it, but the editing, as most of you that have tried it will know, is a very painful and long-winded experience if you're going to make a pretty good job of it. Anyway, the bike is prepared. Obviously, it's got a 6,000 mile service interval, so despite the fact it's only done just over 4,000 miles at the moment, I've had to have it serviced 2,000 miles early, and in fact 3 months if we were working on the 12-month cycle. So it's slightly annoying that I've had to have it serviced, and of course as soon as I come back I'll have to have it serviced again. That was, I think, 180 quid. They wanted to change the brake fluid. I'm not a great believer that you need to do that. I think every 2 years that would be fine. So at the first year I think it's a little bit of an overkill, but North Oxford garages actually did it anyway, and the service I think was about 180 quid. It should have been 260 I think with the brake fluid change, but anyway, brake fluid's all changed. Of course, the other thing as well is 4,000 miles on my tyres, and I suspect on the rear I probably had at least another 2,000 miles left, if not more. But I've had to have new rubber fitted front and rear, because certainly the ones I had wouldn't have lasted, and I'm trying not to stop en route if I can help it, because I like to go where I like to go, if that makes sense. North Oxford garages for my servicing, they know me, I know them, and a local garage that fits motorcycle tyres. But anyway, I've had new rubber fitted, and the tyres I've had fitted are the same as were fitted from new, and there's a specific reason for that. I was tempted to try a new type, maybe Dunlop Speedmasters or something, sorry, Road Smart, Dunlop Road Smart, but these have a specific type of tyre. It's a Metzler Roadtec 01, and they also are rated. There's a standard tyre, and then there's also a tyre that is rated HWM, which stands for heavyweight motorcycle. Not, as my mate Sean says, heavyweight motorcyclist, and that's mainly, I think, because this bike is 300 and some odd kilos unladen, so I imagine that puts extra ply into the sidewalls of the tyre to give it a little bit more strength in that regard. So new service and brand new rubber front and rear. I've also got here, you may be able to just see it in the screen here, a transponder which blips the toll booths in, I think, in Denmark and Sweden, but specifically I bought it for Norway because it also covers quite a lot of the ferries, and if you look at the craggy west coast of Norway, then you'll see that ferries for them are almost like trains. You know, you turn up, you hop on a ferry and away you go. And I think that this will work. Anyway, we'll let you know when we get back how we got on with the transponder there. I have already mentioned to you about the fact that I'm using the MRA app, and I've transferred all of those routes on the TomTom routes to my connected app, or to the connected app on the phone, and that will then show in map view on the TFT here. What I'm going to tell you may surprise you if you followed my channel, because as I say, I've been a very heavy critic of the connected app and its implementation on the GS and GS Adventure, and that is that on here I am nearly 100% satisfied. I think you could number it certainly at 95% satisfied. And that is because I took my motorcycle in, not at this service, but in a it might have been the first service, or it was a mid time that I went to North Oxford Garages to have the TFT updated. And they updated it with all of the new firmware and software, and I'll show you the version here on the screen. And that took a whole day and a whole night. I had to take a lone motorcycle away, but what it has resulted in is it has resulted in the map view being perfectly displayed on the screen pretty well 100% of the time. When you take a phone call, when you use media, all of the things that used to make the thing fall over and mess around has now appeared to have been fixed with that latest update. So certainly I went to Normandy and I don't think it dropped out once. The only time you hold your breath really is when you switch the bike off, refuel, and then restart the bike. You hold your breath waiting for the map view to actually come up. So that's the only frustration, is it does take quite a long time to do that. Anyway, hopefully you can have a look on Instagram. If I get to do some videos of it, maybe I'll do a summary at least when we get home, even if it's not a sort of day-by-day breakdown, but 30 days to the Arctic Circle and back as a loop. So really looking forward to it. Hope you'll have a good motorcycling season for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere. And other than that, I'd say thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe if you wish. Comments I'm always interested in, and I try to answer every single one that I can. I think everybody knows that. In the meantime, ride safe, stay safe. We'll see you next time. I'm off to pack. Goodbye.